almost called the cops.
All right. Hello again, YouTube. We're moving on to the next portion of our nostalgia deepish dives. Now we're going to be diving into some black sitcoms. We're going to go over like a generalized list first, and then I think we'll dive more into some of the more specific ones. But we'll start with, so black sitcoms ruled the 90s by Vice TV.
We wore colorful clothing and had very distinctive hairstyles.
Kid and Play.
Hey, what's up, y'all? My name is Christopher Reed. I'm known as Kid from the group Kid and Play. I'm your auntie's favorite rapper. Was that a good enough intro?
Damn, man.
More than just a new kind of music, the golden age of hip-hop
House
spreads
party,
to all
crazy
corners
time.
of popular culture.
Who are you?
When I started seeing Fred Flintstone rapping, trying to sell me some Fruity Pebbles,
He loves Fruity Pebbles in a make-up way.
I'm like, okay, we made it.
And in September of 1990, the first sitcom built around a hip-hop star hits the air.
In
West Philadelphia, born and raised. The clean rapper.
Will Smith at the time was really known as, like, you know, the Fresh Prince. The very first hip-hop artist to win a Grammy for the hip-hop category.
This is a milestone in our career, and it's a milestone in the history of rap.
While hip-hop has many powerful black producers, when it jumps over to TV, the network execs put white producers in charge, at least at first.
So the control of production came to a lot of the white producers at NBC. So the first season is kind of more of a traditional sitcom. And once the second season came about and Will Smith's popularity just skyrocketed, he himself got an executive producer credits.
He was actually able to control more.
You and me. You know what I'm saying?
With those credits, they were able to hire more black writers, more producers, and that is when the show took off, because it actually reflected a more intimate black perspective as well.
I'm not accepting no prep school, Bel Air bred sellout into my fraternity. Homie, you can stop all that.
Wait, Will.
There's, you know, episodes dealing with absent fathers.
How come you don't want me, man?
Damn. That was one that hit crazy back in the day. When that first time seeing that episode is something crazy. That boy Will.
At one point, Carlton ends up somehow in a gang.
Yo, how you playing me, Prince? What? Are you dissing me? Come on, man, stop it!
There's an episode where they're racially profiled.
I'm Henry Firth.
Good news, Mr. Firth. Your car is safe and sound, and we've got the perpetrators.
Those aren't the perpetrators. Those are my partner's son and nephew.
Partner? Legal partner.
Oh yeah. R.I.P. James Avery, man. That's crazy right there. That was one right there. That's a goat in the black community right there. You want to talk about a father figure.
You grow up rich, and you still have that skin tone, that melanin in you. It doesn't matter. And when I think that's what Will wanted to represent and was telling Carl.
We were detained for a few hours. Dad cleared things up, and we were released. The system works.
I hope you like that system, because you're going to be seeing a whole lot of it during your lifetime.
It does run the gamut of real life experience, and even a black experience, even if it's an alternative black experience.
And I think you needed a black person at the helm of these productions in order to tell that story in a more sufficient way.
People identified with it, and I think it's one of those shows to show that human stories are human stories. It didn't matter if you were black or white. And so it brought in this great crossover audience.
Man, it was just a great show, man. It was great show. Like, you know, like I said, we didn't have a whole bunch of shows. So the ones we had, we clowned some of them, you know what I mean?
The funniest night on television just got funnier. Yes, and I'm tickled pink.
The success of NBC's Fresh Prince doesn't go unnoticed by competitors. The recently launched and struggling Fox network sees there's money to be made with black programming.
What matters more than black and white? Green.
The money.
Green. It's good for your bottom line.
From inspiration born of desperation, Fox ushers in a new era of groundbreaking black television.
Am I black or white? You're under arrest.
That some people see as a cynical bid to build its brand.
So I guess I am black.
And they do it on the backs of black artistry.
These home-installed dishes bypass local TV stations. And
by 1990, cable and satellite are starting to lure affluent, mostly white households away from traditional over-the-air broadcast television.
From the channels on cable TV.
Leaving a much more diverse audience still exclusively watching network TV.
And Fox, okay, this is a market that's underserved, so let's give them something.
The goal wasn't because they enjoyed black culture so much. The goal was profit. How can we be different? How can we get our eyes away from those networks onto our networks?
So where can one go to find nice women here?
They start by luring away talent from their big screen rivals.
We have been to every bar in Queens.
There was a little bit of a, what I would call a black rat pack happening. There was Robert Townsend Rat Pack.
Oh my God, living single.
Happening. There was Robert Townsend, Eddie Murphy, Arsenio Hall, you know, Damon and Keenan. Really funny black guys who were producing and doing their own thing.
Keenan Wayans had just came off of a film, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker.
Only thing you're gonna be able to handle Soldier Boy is a wheelchair.
Yeah. Ain't nobody laying a finger on my baby. Mom!
And Fox said, let's bring these individuals to television. That's just money in the bank for us.
How'd you do that?
Fox had the money, so they said, here, take this money, do whatever you want with it, and make us different.
The stunt double is crazy.
They gave Keenan, free reign.
With this creative freedom, Wayans creates a sketch comedy show that will end up laying the foundation for Fox's black sitcom boom.
What a lot of people don't know is that we shot the pilot and it took almost a year, I think, for Fox to pick it up. I'm Kim Coles, and in the 90s, I spent time on 2 shows that had the word living in the title, In Living Color and Living Single.
Sinclair!
And I do my own sound effects. You know, while we were all waiting, someone said, oh, I saw your show, In Living Color. And I was like, how did you see the show? It's not a show yet. We only shot the pilot. Someone had taken the show and bootlegged it, and they were selling VHS tapes on the street in Harlem, in Brooklyn, in Queens.
Yeah, Living Color.
And so I knew immediately that this show was going to work because people were so excited that they were seeing.
You wouldn't steal a car, right?
People of color doing these crazy, wonderful
pirating stuff too.
Funny things.
Say hello to Mike Tyson.
Hi, Marvin. Now that show was a funny ass show.
Just a boxer from Brooklyn, and I was a Harvard medical student.
It was mentioning a talent that was groundbreaking.
All right. I think we can go a little deeper. Let's see. We'll check out this next video, AJ Plus. What happened to the golden age of black sitcoms? Because yeah, like there was, and and that makes a lot of sense to say that, like, it wasn't due to like them enjoying black media, whatnot. It was just, what was popular at the time, because you did have like this sudden influx of like amazing for us, amazing black shows. And it's like this nice like clutch of these shows, like you got In Living Color, My Wife and Kids, Different Strokes, Different Worlds, Living Single, Martin, what else? Oh my God, Girlfriends. Like you have all these, like, but they all did kind of happen around the same time, if not like right back to back from each other. And then now you see how like spaced out they are, especially in quality, because oh my goodness. But all those shows, I feel like at a point, the Parkers, like, oh my God, there's so many that like just still hit to this day. So the quality, once they like gave over that the once like black creators were able to be in control of, you know, black stories and everything, is when you can really see like that stuff shines like crazy. So all right, we're hopping into this next one. What happened to the golden age of black sitcoms by AJ Plus.
Hold on to your love of 90s TV, because we're about to time travel. Once upon a time, in the age of busy patterns, dial-up modems, and the real Running Man, television was black.
I'm glad I've got my girl.
Like,
oh my god.
What is truly American is black culture to a large degree. Flip on the television set.
What's my theme music?
It's a rare condition. Family Matters. Oh my god.
And that's how so many people see the 1990s, but is that really true, or is nostalgia just clouding our recollection?
No.
So everybody kind of looks on the golden age in terms of when they were young.
Hey fam, I'm Imayan, this is AJ Plus, and this Sunday we're exploring why so many think the 90s was the golden age of black sitcoms, why there aren't more black sitcoms on TV today, and if there's any chance they'll come back, because I might want a cameo.
Blackity black.
There was a time when the sitcom was dead to television executives, like, rest in peace dead. They were wooed by TV shows like MASH, Dallas, Dynasty, and Magnum PI. Dramas dominated the ratings in the early 80s. And then something unexpected happened.
Bill Cosby.
Once that showed...
okay. We can respect what he did for the culture while also demeaning the terrible actions he's also done.
How popular sitcoms could be, they came back with a vengeance.
That's former network executive and TV historian Tim Brooks. He says the birth of what some see as a black sitcom boom actually begins in the 1980s with The Cosby Show. It had some of the highest ratings ever recorded for a sitcom. It finished third in the ratings in its first year and first the next 4 seasons.
And if you don't get it together and drop these macho attitudes, you are never gonna have anybody bringing you anything, anywhere, any place, anytime, ever.
So you had a period from about 84 until the early 90s where black sitcoms were very prevalent and big hits on network television. And what happened in the 90s was that the black sitcoms had all followed in the wake of The Cosby Show.
I'm an expert when it comes to
Family Matters.
Family Matters, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and A Different World are just a few of the hit shows networks turned out after the success of The Cosby Show. So if you were one of those people who did the Urkel,
hey, what?
you can sort of blame Bill Cosby. When NBC debuted The Cosby Show in 1984, it basically rescued the Peacock from a dismal third-place position. Then in 1986, a new network joined the media landscape dominated by NBC, ABC, and CBS. This was the birth of Fox.
Uh-huh.
April 5th, you view Sundays in a whole new light.
Fox finally decided to take a cue from the success of black sitcoms on the Big Three by creating programming geared toward a young African-American and Latino market. In 1991, it already had the black sketch show In Living Color, and it added the sitcom Rock. The next few years brought even more black sitcoms to the network.
Martin, single.
By the mid-90s, Fox was airing a bunch of black sitcoms. That is until, whoop, there it wasn't.
In 1994, the majority of black produced shows were canceled.
Like that middle name.
One fell swoop. Fox Network, that aired the majority of black-owned shows, canceled them because Fox was then in a position to court white audiences.
According to Zook, the success of Fox built it up, and then the network began seeking.
So pretty much, you know, they used the black name to, you know, get the popularity back up. And now once they actually started getting views, they're like, okay, now we can actually start catering to our white audience again. And you see how well that
young white male viewership. Did they do that? Why would they? Well, a strange thing was happening in the 90s. Audience viewing habits were changing. Black and white audiences had had similar viewing habits in the 1980s, and then in the 90s we see a distinct split. The top TV shows in white households weren't the same as the most watched in black homes. For example, Seinfeld was the top-rated show in white homes in 1997, but only ranked 50th in black households.
Yeah, I bet. Nobody's watching Seinfeld.
Between Brothers was #1 in black homes, but 112th among whites. And the difference between the viewerships was made clearer as other networks also made room for different programming. The Cosby Show ended in 1992. Its spin-off, A Different World, which eventually surpassed it in the ratings after 3 years, was canceled in 93. That same year, NBC launched a new campaign.
Must-see TV becomes NBC's Star-Crossed Thursday.
And then they kind of faded in this wave of must-see TV, Thursday night, NBC, young white.
Sounds like you're saying gentrification pushed black sitcoms off of television.
Yeah, in a sense, that's true.
And just like with neighborhood gentrification,
so they would have
this
more of a mass
programming was
audience to
pushed
cater
a new
to.
area. Enter the WB and UPN. Years before they merged to become the CW, the networks used Fox's same blueprint to gain a foothold and become the 5th and 6th networks. They even had executives from Fox, and like Fox, they too ended up reshaping the audience after gaining success. And as we came to the end of the road in the 90s and bounced into the aughts, aka the 2000s, black sitcoms
Bounced into the what?
Bounced into the aughts, aka the 2000s. Black
never heard
sitcoms
that.
faced even more stream because the genre was going out of style. We began binging on reality TV.
If all sitcoms were in the cold, and black sitcoms, of course, is a subset of that, without any Cosby Show to spark a new wave, we're out in the cold too.
And is it possible black sitcoms were frozen because the sitcom genre was no longer a good vehicle to tell black stories? Writer Kyle Hiller says we need to be very careful about fawning over the 90s black sitcom era.
Just the narratives themselves weren't really diving as deeply as they could, and I think that might have something to do with the fact that things did fall off into the 2000s, and the way that sitcoms are today in general, they are much more dramatic and they're much more filmic and they have stronger themes and things like that.
Hiller says 90s sitcoms didn't do a good job of digging into the black American experience and often relied on tropes, stereotypes, and slapstick humor without delving into why it made fun of certain things.
I mean, yes and no, because you can't just like delve into those things, especially as like budding creators who are just now getting their foot in the door to make something like interesting. Like, yes, they want you to cater to the black audience, but if you think that they were getting you up here to get on your soapbox and just preach to them, that definitely wasn't what they were about to let happen, for sure. As you saw with why a lot of these producers and whatnot these black producers were eventually pushed out when they wanted to do more inlined and grounded black media versus doing like the more stereotypical content, is that they were eventually just phased out or fired altogether or let go, and then they would just continue their medium without them and making it even worse. So that's where you get like the scary movies and all of that, where like it starts off so fire with the Wayans involved, and then once they get the boot, it just goes, it becomes this like watered down former version of itself. And that's what you see with like a lot of these sitcoms today. Like they don't hit the same like these OG black sitcoms did. And like I said, even with the like stereotypes, they definitely did portray a lot of, because I feel like with the hints of like these weren't necessarily black owned TV stations and channels or whatnot. Like they still, I'm sure, had to fit into a box to also garner like that wider audience. But it's also in a sense like, when it comes to like absurdism in those regards and like dramatization of issues, just like what we talked about with Boondocks, like you can use those things to start the conversation, and it's like, it's not to portray like, oh, this is exactly how it is, or like this, we're giving you a full one-to-one breakdown of like what the lives are, but it is insight of how it's like, and like what the feelings and the general thoughts around those things are, without making it too heavy and still enjoyable at the same time. So
But there's at least one 90s episode he says bucked the formula and became a memorable moment, when Will Smith had to handle his father walking out on him. Go ahead and get your tissues ready.
I learned how to drive, I learned how to shave, I learned how to fight without him. I had 14
Great birthdays without.
But see, that's not the only episode of The Fresh Prince that goes into these like deeper like thoughts in actual like community and like trauma of like some of these characters and just the black community in general. So like what?
Without him, he never even sent me a damn card. To hell with him!
I remember that being one of the first times that I watched television, and it really struck a chord with me in a way that I could really, really relate to. I hadn't seen anything like that in television.
How come you don't want me, man?
That's how I felt about most of the Fresh
may
Prince
be
stuff.
a precursor to something that's become a staple in our media diet: the ability to merge humor and drama in one TV show. And Brooks says that's another thing that helped end the reign of black sitcoms.
Desperate Housewives, shows like that were almost like 1-hour sitcoms. So that filled the need that viewers had for comedy, and that kind of left the traditional sitcom out in the cold.
Is she gonna be okay? Yeah, sure. Hold on a second.
This decade brought shows that use the same mixture of comedy and drama, but with more inclusive casting. Think Orange is the New Black or Atlanta.
What's up, guys? I'm Zen.
Yeah.
Fire on.
You want a hat, Paperboy?
And there's one other thing that's had a major impact on the number of black sitcoms on network TV. And you're looking at it right now, the internet. Digital networks like Netflix are distributing and producing funny shows with black faces. And sometimes they even have the old 90s favorites available to stream. So yes, ABC currently is airing the hit show Blackish.
I know there were black people.
Before you know it, we're gonna be a country full of YouTubing selfie takers, living in houses full of because nobody knows how to fix a damn toilet.
But it's one of only a few black sitcoms slated on the fall 2017 network television schedule. And guess when one of them airs? Tuesday nights after Blackish. And that's very interesting because 79% of the audience that watches Blackish isn't black, according to Nielsen. The audience for black shows is expansive, according to Brooks, and Nielsen's ratings agree. Storylines with a strong black character or identity are crossing cultural boundaries to grab diverse audiences and start conversations, according to Nielsen. But with Netflix showing a slew of black stand-up specials while creating original shows like Dear White People, viewers can get their fix online. So with our changing entertainment palette, all this
I talk about Dear White People and how it's created by white people, but you know, we're not even gonna do. We're not.
Sitcom has evolved. Will we ever see a black sitcom boom like we did in the 1990s? It's so much closer than you think.
Because you can always tell when these sitcoms, black sitcoms, are white writers and producers. They're just like, okay.
In a sense, we are one hit away, I think, from a revival. There's nothing inherent in the black sitcom genre that keeps it off of television today. It's just they need an example of doing it right.
Now this is a story all about how I did this video just for you, and I want to take a minute just to sit right here to see you like, share, subscribe, and comment right there.
Not bad, not bad. All right, AJ Plus, we appreciate it. Good video. A nice little dive into some of the black sitcoms and just like some of the history of like where they, I guess, eventually inevitably ended up. Which is not a surprise to find out that it was mainly due to you know, white sitcoms taking over the airs and then eventually those fizzling out and not doing much better than the black sitcoms, definitely. Especially for our demographic, I feel like just black stories in general told by black people just hits to a different degree and way where like we're still talking about these shows to this day. And like I feel like a lot of like the white sitcoms that we still talk about today, besides like what Friends, it's like one of the main ones, but we've got like 20 or 30 that we still like regularly quote. I feel like they've got like 2 or 3 that's actually like, well, you got Seinfeld, Friends, and I think those are like the only OG ones. Maybe what's the one with Betty White? But yeah, So those were just general black sitcoms. We're going to dive into our next video here. The Bernie Mac Show is an underrated masterpiece. I don't think it's well, maybe underrated as far as outside of black households, because anybody that I know loved the Bernie Mac Show. Bernie Mac in particular being one of the most hilarious stand-up comedians to ever live. R.I.P. To one of the greatest, if not the greatest one of the. So this one is by T1J. The Bernie Mac Show is an underrated masterpiece. Little sitcom lore. Starting so quick.
The Bernie Mac Show is a sitcom from the early 2000s about a famous comedian that is suddenly introduced to parenthood when he gains custody of his sister's 3 kids. The show's unique style and interesting commentary on parenting was well received by both critics and audiences.
Bernie Mac Show, because as always, Bernie Mac just being willing to say whatever he thinks in most cases. Just, oh my God, being a wordsmith when it comes to the most disrespectful shit. It's insane, but the show was amazing. Another like crazy family fatherhood that just the absurdity of it all, but like this the trueness in Bernie Mac's character himself, and just him being just who he is.
Not important that I be those kids' friend. So my job is to be their parent. Let them know that I'm there for them always.
It won almost every award a TV show can win.
And the Emmy goes to
Deserved.
Larry Wilmore, the Bernie Mac Show!
Peabody Award goes to the Bernie Mac Show for its wise and hilarious perspective on the struggles of modern parenting.
But for some reason, this gem of a show is rarely talked about these days. Well, I'm here to change that.
Let's do it.
Hi, I'm T1J.
Follow me.
And I just rewatched all 5 seasons of the Bernie Mac Show. It should definitely be in the conversation more often when we're talking about great nostalgic sitcoms. So
Is it not? I mean, when you're talking to people, do they not bring up the Bernie Mac Show? I feel like I've never heard anybody who's never even at least very seen it, let alone not loved it.
Make you listen to me talk about it for a little while.
Black or otherwise.
So in the year 2000, this movie came out. It was a stand-up comedy film. It was called The Original Kings of Comedy. You probably heard of it. It had comedy from Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, D.L. Hughley, and Bernie Mac. It was a big hit. People loved it. I loved it. This guy, his name's Larry Wilmore, he loved it too. In particular, he really loved Bernie Mac's hilarious stories about having to raise his drug addict sister's 3 terrible children.
I got my sister's children living with me now. I'm about to go crazy like a motherfucker around here, you know? See, my sister on drugs. I ain't ashamed to tell you. Some of your family members fucked up too around here.
Larry was watching that and he thought to himself, that should be a TV show. And you know what? He was right. So in 2001, the Bernie Mac Show was born. Bernie plays a fictional version of himself who ends up with custody of his sister's 3 children while she goes off to drug rehab.
Yeah, my sister's on drugs. That's okay. Some of your family members messed up too.
I don't want to victim blame the kids too much. They definitely had a difficult upbringing, but they are a handful to say the least. Vanessa is a bratty teenager with a bad attitude.
It ain't about the phone. It's about the simple things in life, about teaching you respect. You understand?
Whatever.
Jordan is kind of a wimpy crybaby, but he's also diabolical.
Why don't you want? Well, it turns out I'm allergic to 100% solid gold. I'll go get my piggy bank.
And little Brianna puts up a sweet face for Uncle Bernie, but turns into a demon behind closed doors.
Brianna, would you just stop it? Jordan's holding the bowl.
Yep.
We'll talk more about all the kids a little bit later. The Bernie Mac Show is a single camera sitcom with no laugh track, which is pretty commonplace now, but at the time, the style was rarely used for network sitcoms.
You don't need a laugh track when people actually laugh.
In the early days of television, but after the overwhelming success of All in the Family in the 70s, pretty much every sitcom followed suit, being shot on a stage with multiple cameras in front of an audience. We would start to see the more cinematic single camera style occasionally occasionally on premium channels like HBO, but at the time, the only popular show on mainstream network TV that used this format was Malcolm in the Middle, which had just debuted a year before the Bernie Mac show. So alongside Malcolm in the Middle, the Bernie Mac show was actually one of the programs that helped to repopularize this style that would very soon become a staple of TV comedy. The creator of the Bernie Mac show, Larry Wilmore, was no stranger to unique TV formats. Before starting the Bernie Mac show, he helped create the groundbreaking Emmy-winning animated show, The PJs.
See, we already went into that in our earlier adult animations.
So he was given the freedom to try some interesting things.
We were,
if you haven't viewed that, go check that video out.
Television was just starting to come in. Real World had been on for years, and I wanted to do a show where it felt like we were observing.
D.L. Hughley had to talk to us before this was more recent.
Keep in mind, this was back when reality TV was still this new, interesting thing. We hadn't quite figured out how trash that genre would soon become. Just like Wilmore implied, the show is designed to make the viewer feel like an observer or a fly on the wall. A lot of the time, the shots are composed to look like we're almost spying on the characters, like a hidden camera secretly recording these people's lives. And even outside of that, there are so many cool shots and creative choices. Like this scene that visualizes Bernie's struggle to keep up with the kids by having him moving normally while they zip around at super speed behind him. There's even a claymation episode, an obvious nod to Wilmore's previous work. The main source of conflict on the Bernie Mac show involves Bernie trying to balance his old school way of thinking with modern ideas.
I don't know if I remember the claymation episode. I'm about to go check that one out.
Bernie Mac is old school and proud of it. But things are different now. And maybe my way isn't for everybody.
I am getting the belt.
Sometimes it's just what you need.
Bernie is a complex and flawed character. He's cocky and self-assured.
You were dirty too.
Hell no. Oh man. Came out circumcised.
Came out
stubborn and thin-skinned.
In the very depths of my soul, deeper than deep, I blame them kids.
He's strict and overbearing when it comes to the children.
Honey, we eat dinner in 20 minutes. I'm not hungry.
Well, if you ain't hungry, that give you more doggone time to go up in there and study. And give me that water. Give it up.
But also desperately seeks their affection and love. As far as I can tell, it was Bernie's idea to take the kids into his home. Luckily for him, his wife Wanda is extremely supportive and quickly becomes fond of the children herself. Wanda is a highly competent businesswoman who usually ends up being the voice of reason that helps Bernie realize when he's acting a little too crazy.
Above the line, kids. Below the line, off limits.
Bernie.
Yes.
Can I talk to you?
Sure. Remember, above the line, kids. Below the line, off limits. Say it.
I can't believe you.
What?
Those kids are not your roommates.
I know that. Roommates pay rent.
So we've got a familiar sitcom setup. We've got the dysfunctional family with the goofy dad and the smart hot wife that basically has to parent the husband. But the Bernie Mac show plays with these tropes in a cool way. Most obviously, Bernie and Wanda are not these kids' actual parents, and they have no kids of their own. Before the kids showed up, Bernie was used to the freedom of his celebrity lifestyle, and Wanda was hyper-focused on her corporate career. They kind of have no idea how to be parents, at least in the beginning. Bernie tries to implement the hardcore old school upbringing that he grew up with, but quickly finds the kids unreceptive to it.
Baby girl, find your brother and tell him I say get his skinny butt down here right now. And now back to you.
I hate it here.
You ain't gotta stay here. There's nobody keeping you. You can leave. Matter of fact, I'll help you.
Wanda is nicer to the kids than Bernie is because she enjoys being perceived as the cool auntie. But when the kids start acting up, she's overwhelmed by the responsibility and usually fails at keeping them in line.
Ha 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 ha.
So the show is really about Bernie and Wanda learning the difficult task of becoming a parent, and among other things, learning the happy medium between being too strict and being too forgiving. Another thing the Bernie Mac show has in common with Malcolm in the Middle is the theme of breaking the fourth wall and speaking directly to the audience. Like Malcolm, Bernie constantly acknowledges and addresses the camera directly in every episode. Most of the time, this takes the form of Bernie sitting in his den and talking to the audience, who he refers to as America.
Now you hold on, America. I wouldn't say kids were like cockroaches. I wouldn't do that. But I just compare the two species and you make the call.
Which is honestly pretty cool as a viewer. It kind of makes you feel like you're a part of the story. These scenes are similar to talking head scenes in mockumentary comedies like The Office, where the characters comment on things that happen during the episode. But it's actually not quite like The Office. Outside of Bernie, the characters don't know they're on a TV show.
What you looking at?
Well, sometimes they do. I don't know. It's weird. But in those den scenes, it's not usually Bernie commenting on something that happened at a different time. It's much more surreal than that. Usually he's reacting to something literally as it's happening to him elsewhere in real time, which implies that the den might be like a symbolic, figurative place or like a visual representation of Bernie's inner thoughts, which would be fine. Lots of TV sitcoms have surreal elements like that. But sometimes important plot points happen during those den scenes. And sometimes Bernie literally breaks the fourth wall and gains information from that he wouldn't have known otherwise.
And sometimes it sounds like you might just have to watch a TV show and disband disbelief. I mean, come on. It's a sitcom. I don't know what to tell you in most cases. It's just funny.
I truly almost made the whole video just about this aspect of the show.
About him breaking the fourth wall.
Mac some kind of time lord or something? There's also these.
What does a time lord have to? What? Nope. My nerd is showing. I can't. What?
Captions that pop up on the screen all the time.
What's the connection there?
Give like snarky commentary that is clearly the point of view of someone other than Bernie, like some even more omniscient observer.
Oh, come on. What the hell just happened in the car?
In the store.
Sometimes Bernie is aware
12 ice cream sandwiches is crazy.
How am I supposed to watch my words? What the hell is this?
I don't know, but I really need to stop because otherwise this will literally be the whole video. But those little quirks really made the show feel unique and creative. Even to this day, it stands out to me. I love sitcoms, but I will be the first to admit that they are sometimes just carbon copies of each other. And even though the Bernie Mac show did take inspiration from Malcolm in the Middle and reality TV, it was nice for there to be something a little bit different on TV. So I kind of roasted Bernie.
I mean, could you say it even really took stuff from Malcolm in the Middle? Because what you said, it came out, Malcolm in the Middle came out a year before Bernie Mac show. So like Bernie Mac show at least had to have been in production or in talks about at least by the time like Malcolm in the Middle first started to before it started. Like from like conception to actual creation takes like well over, I felt like a year alone. So I have to like, I mean, maybe like eventually it took some of the aspects in him, possibly like the later seasons, but like as far as like the beginning aspect and like what the actual show was built on, I feel like it couldn't have really been affected by unless they were on Malcolm in the Middle.
In Wanda's,
and like I said, he had already done the PJs before that, so it's not like he was not Bernie Mac, but producer. It wasn't like he's new to black sitcoms and unique mediums on that, since it was all claymation as well. So
parenting earlier, but in fairness to them, they are dealing with some hellacious kids. Brianna, the baby of the bunch, is the apple of her Uncle Bernie's eye, and she uses this to her benefit.
The baby.
You have anything you want, whatever you want, just ask your Uncle Bernie here.
She starts off very sweet and innocent, but becomes meaner and more mischievous over time, all the while Bernie's still thinking of her as his sweet baby girl.
Hey, baby, come on, give me a hand.
Oh, I know where I like to put my hand on that little monster's rear end.
You talking about knuckle?
No, your spoiled little princess.
Oh, get out of here, baby girl. That's ridiculous. You can't force from that person.
It gets so bad that it's actually suggested by a therapist that Brianna might have psychological issues due to her unstable upbringing.
Brianna wants to push you away before you leave her.
That's quasi. Leave her where?
Your sister's interactions with Brianna were colored by her drug usage. Sometimes she was loving and engaged, and other times she was emotionally unavailable. Brianna never knew which mother she was going to get.
Bernie eventually realizes that Brianna just needs to be disciplined and that he should stop letting her use her cuteness as a get-out-of-jail-free card.
I guess
character development.
I'm partly to blame because I spoiled you. Baby girl Uncle Bernie was a little afraid that he was going to lose the love of his sweet baby girl.
To be fair, that is an adorable kid.
I don't want to be a sweet baby girl.
I understand.
I want to be a sweet big girl.
Jordan, the middle child, is kind of a terrifying evil genius.
My Thanksgiving's great till you turn 6. I'm 6. You are? What happens when you turn 6? Well, you're not a baby anymore. You have to sit at the kids' table. Boy, did I hate that. You're all alone with no one to talk to. And you have to eat parts of the turkey no one wants, like the beak and gizzards.
He's constantly running schemes and pulling pranks on everyone. But it seems he can dish it out, but not really take it.
Hey guys, anyone want to fly a kite? And the other one's calling me Ben Franklin.
Oh, but now that's better than Puddles, right?
You told her?
Bernie shows particular interest in Jordan as the only boy of the 3 kids. He wants to pass on to Jordan his ideas about what it means to be a man.
Look, I got a football. I got a pair of boxing gloves. Hey, look here. I got toy guns. We can play war.
But Jordan is more of a nerdy, sensitive kid, which Bernie initially perceives as weak and unmanly. Bernie's somewhat outdated ideas about masculinity are explored frequently.
Breaking the fourth wall again.
Jordan, you find something there you like?
Jazz dance.
Give me that. Give me him. Junior Scouts, it's gonna be for you.
Scouts before.
Because they take the jazz dance out of you and put a man inside you.
And Bernie constantly taunts and belittles Jordan for these perceived shortcomings.
You know that boy needs someone. He's soft.
He is not soft.
He is.
Jordan is a gentle soul.
This is a direct reference to Bernie's stand-up routine, where Bernie uses even more offensive language to describe his effeminate nephew.
I said, where you going? He said, to get some milk and cookies.
Oh my
He
God.
said it so funny, I wanted to hear it again. I said, get some what? He said, some milk and cookies. I love the motherfucker, but you know.
Bernie Mac's stand-up was known for being raunchy and vulgar. Let's just
Vulgar,
say
for sure.
if he was around today, Twitter would have probably tried to cancel him. But Larry Wilmore
can't
had a
cancel
vision for how to translate that X-rated comedy into a family-oriented network sitcom.
Bernie was so raw in the clubs. If you were a watered-down version of Bernie on TV, it just wasn't going to work because people didn't want to see that. So rather than compete with that, I thought I'd show a different side of Bernie.
Regardless of what you think of Bernie Mac's comedy, it's obvious that his onstage persona was a character. This mean and cocky guy that you couldn't help but laugh at because of the funny way he talked and the shocking things that were coming out of his mouth.
My wife gonna tell me, I'm gonna get a young man. Go get the motherfucker. I don't give a fuck. Go get him. I'll watch. That's why I watch.
It was distasteful to some, and we can't be critical of it, but it should be said that this character did not seem very similar to the real man.
When I went home one day, I told my daughter, I said, baby girl, Bruce was about 8? When I told her, I said, I might say some things, you might hear Dad say some things. But that's not Dad. They jokes. And it does not matter as long as you know the truth.
In reality, Bernie Mac didn't even have a biological sister, much less a disappointing nephew that he shouted slurs at. In reality, Bernie was less angry and disrespectful than his stage counterpart. In fact, he was one of the most thoughtful and insightful public figures out there.
I don't want to do this on the strength of notoriety or things like that. I'm a clown. I've been called a clown all my life.
And you're happy with that?
I'm happy with it.
A clown.
I love it. But I'm secure with the fact that when I get through, when I bring joy to people, and I make people laugh at something, Charlie, that comes from me, that comes from my mindset, or something that I want to put into perspective, or sit there and say something that everybody afraid to say, but bring humor from it also. It's such a joy for me.
And by all accounts, he was also a generous and kind man that people loved working with. And that was another another cool thing about the show, it captured those irreverent aspects of the stand-up persona that people already loved.
You know, doggone well, you're not supposed to throw no candy. Matter of fact, you're not supposed to throw anything. I should have put a dent in your head the same way you did my car. Okay, it's all right for me to do that, Cooley? And you, baby girl, yeah, you're just too cute. That's the only way you get away with it. But that's not gonna last. Usually last till you're around 6. What are you, 5 3/4? Yeah, then you be right along with them. And you know what? When you get with them, stop!
While sprinkling in moments inspired by Bernie Mac's real-life kindness and emotional intelligence.
Son, I am really proud of you.
Why? I got beat up by a girl.
And you hit her down on the ground, you did the right thing. You stopped yourself.
She looks really afraid. Made me feel bad.
That's good. You know what that tells you? You're not a bully.
The character on the Bernie Mac show is much more interesting to me than the character from the stage. That's just me though.
Oh yeah.
Many other performers and
when
artists,
you have a set stand-up routine that you go around the country doing versus a series where you can have room for character development and tell an actual plot and storyline, of course you would find that more compelling. Doesn't make his stand-up less fucking hilarious, and doesn't make the show not based exactly off his jokes off the stage as well. So it's not like you're really getting much else. You're getting just a more in-depth dive into it, and a more structured version of it.
History have enjoyed pushing the boundaries of what's considered acceptable, for better and for worse. The great video essayist Broe Deschanel has a dope series called Taboo on Screen, where she does a deep dive into several examples of this kind of boundary pushing in film.
Sometimes discomfort is necessary. Sometimes we need to hear ugly truths about ourselves. Sometimes, in order to be challenged, we need to be provoked. This is Taboo on Screen, only on Nebula.
Fire.
This original series is only available on Nebula, by the way, which is our creator-owned video platform, and it's a perfect example of why we made Nebula in the first place. She talks about some pretty rough things in the series, like depictions of cannibalism and rape in movies. And if you couldn't tell from me bleeping that out, those are topics which tend to get flagged on YouTube, almost guaranteeing that you make no money from that particular video. You're kind of rolling the dice when you make videos like that on YouTube. But our amazing Nebula subscribers help us to make content like this that doesn't really work that well on YouTube, but still definitely deserves an audience. And it's not just Broe Deschanel, made even beyond and on very chaos. Consider signing up for Nebula. If you use my link nebula.tv/T1J, I can get you 40% off an annual plan. That's $30 for a full year of Nebula. That's a year of amazing content from your favorite creators, a lot of which you cannot find anywhere else. It's a great way to support me alongside an entire community of awesome independent creators. Now let's get back to the video. I've got one more kid to talk about. Probably the most interesting aspect of the Bernie Mac show is Bernie's tense relationship with Vanessa, the oldest of the 3 kids. Bernie is extra hard on her, partially because she's the oldest, but mostly because she's a teenage girl, and Bernie is the epitome of the overprotective father figure.
What's that on your lip, Nessa?
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about. You weren't born that color. Go in there and scrub that stuff off.
What's the big deal? All the girls at school wear lipstick.
Good, you be the only one that ain't pregnant. Now go in there and scrub that stuff.
He's harsh and domineering, but really Bernie is terrified because he knows how the world treats young women and he wants to protect Vanessa from it.
Baby, you better talk to her, especially when she come home pregnant. I'm not taking care of no more babies. You best believe that.
Come on, we done been through this before. Hasn't she proven herself to be responsible? When you gonna start trusting her?
I trust her, Wanda. So damn boys I don't trust.
He always takes it a little bit too far, though, and Vanessa openly resents him because of how authoritarian he is.
What'd you say?
Nothing, Warden.
You can go in the room and join.
Better than listening to you?
Don't walk away from me, Nessa. Nessa!
This is different than the other kids. Brianna and Jordan misbehave pretty frequently, but as young kids, they mostly like Bernie and want his approval. He's pretty much the only real father figure they've ever had. But Vanessa, on the other hand, is less than pleased about being forced to leave her home, and Bernie's tough rules don't make the situation any more pleasant. I think she's also conflicted because she feels like kind of a poser, like she's from the projects, but now she lives with her big shot celebrity celebrity uncle in Southern California. Bernie Mac's wealth and celebrity are actually a big part of the show, by the way. He lives in a big, gorgeous house. By the way, shout out to the set designers for this show. Like, I want to live in this house. There's also a lot of cameos on the show from Bernie's famous friends. Like, it might actually be some kind of record. I've never seen a show with this many celebrity cameos. I mean, they got Stone Cold and Triple H on there. That was enough to get me interested back in the day. But that was just another thing that made this show stand out. You actually get to a point where you're like, I wonder who the celebrity guest is going to be this time. It was like a feature of the show. But probably the main reason that Vanessa lashes out at Bernie is because she misses her mom.
The firstborn in each family is making a huge patchwork quilt for the oldest in the family.
Oh.
Vanessa, it's too bad your mama couldn't come to the reunion.
Finished.
There's another episode where Bernie takes the family back to Chicago for a funeral, and the kids hope to go visit their mom, but she goes missing from rehab. This is a devastating episode, actually, as Vanessa spends the entire time trying to meet up with her mother to no avail. In fact, many episodes deal with Vanessa's sadness about her mother. Stacy, Bernie's sister and the mother of the three kids, is mentioned frequently throughout the run of the show, but we never see her, unlike other mysterious TV mothers.
And that, kids, is how I met your mother.
It's heavily implied that Stacy is pretty deep into drug addiction and may even be a lost cause, which is kind of dark and depressing. Also, unlike the typical sitcom story where everything works out for everybody at the end of the day. But that sort of situation is the reality for a lot of people. So I commend the show for not being afraid to tackle a harsh subject like that. And to take something that Bernie Mac made up as the premise for a bit and think about it earnestly.
Why does she always do this? Why? Why can't she be like other moms? It's not fair.
I found myself really sympathizing with Vanessa while watching the show. She's in a tough position. See, despite her attitude, Vanessa is essentially a good kid. And honestly, I don't know if you could say the same about her siblings. She's not a perfect angel all the time, but she's got a good head on her shoulders when it matters. Bernie's always paranoid that she's up to no good, doing drugs or having sex, but she never is. So I understand her frustration. Over time, Bernie realizes that Vanessa is under a lot of pressure.
Back in Chicago, she pretty much raised those kids. And if you think about it, she kind of still is.
She doing a piss poor job, man, because those kids get wild.
And he's taking to run around like she never had the chance. I mean, think about it. She's never really been a kid. Let's not rob her being a teenager, too.
And Vanessa gains some perspective herself from her friends.
How can you take his side?
Cuz you're tripping, and you have been since the minute I got here. I mean, look what you've got. He's great because he obviously cares about you. But as soon as he comes around, you turn into a total bitch.
And from her Aunt Wanda.
I mean, the way Uncle Bernie and I are always fighting, is it my fault?
Not totally, no. But maybe what the problem is that every time he says something to you, you turn it into an attack.
And ultimately from Bernie when he reveals the true reason he's so hard on her.
You see, you're not the first 17-year-old I had to look after. I had to look after your mother. Unfortunately, I had to watch her close enough. And I'm not gonna slip up on my job this time.
Don't you think I learned a lot from what happened to my mom, too? When are you gonna trust me to make my own decisions?
That's how I trust you. Just don't expect me to always act like it. Like I don't expect you to do what I always ask you to do. That's who we are. And that's who we're always gonna be.
Look at that growth.
The Bernie Mac show was one of those shows that the network really didn't know what to do with. Its time slot was moved around a bunch of times, and after a strong start, it was eventually canceled after the 5th season. Unfortunately, they probably would not have been able to tell much more of the story anyway. Bernie Mac tragically passed away 2 years after the show ended at the age of 50 due to complications of a rare disease he was living with called sarcoidosis. He was taken from the world during the peak of what was certainly going to be be a remarkable career in Hollywood. Most comedy fans would tell you that Bernie Mac was one of the GOATs. I personally tend to agree, and the Bernie Mac show is an important and I think underrated part of that legacy. Go watch it if you haven't before. It's good. And that's about it. If you can't tell, I like making videos about old TV sitcoms. If there's a show that you'd like me to cover, leave a suggestion in the comments. My last video was about Seinfeld, so click the link on the screen if you're interested in seeing that. But that's the end of the video. Bye-bye.
All right, that was T1J. The Bernie Mac show is an underrated masterpiece. No, definitely. Like I said, I feel like all the people I know personally love that show, love Bernie Mac. So I feel like it was underrated, but like you said, it being able to be canceled and all that shows that, you know, as far as like a wider brand audience wasn't maybe as interested or what have you. But I mean, 5 seasons, way to go. And as you saw, like a shit ton of character development between like each of the characters and the and Bernie. So that's awesome to see. Like you said, R.I.P. Bernie Mac, gone way too soon. So the black sitcoms in that video there with the YouTube. And continue on next. So catch y'all later. Thanks for popping in.